It's so funny when they get caught on tape. They're like, we were just joking. Yeah. Well, I think we know better. I think we're looking at some very evil people in this report. This undersheriff and the prosecutor and the judge were talking about killing a Kansas couple. Ha ha ha, what a joke. And I'll tell you what's the joke. Their names. Their names are jokes. Mark and Mandy Hellstrom feared their lives were in danger when they discovered an audio recording of Wallace County law enforcement and court officials talking about ways to kill the couple. Oh, those terrible people. The couple says they inadvertently recorded the private conversation with Mark Hellstrom's phone after he left it in a clerk's office in the Wallace County courthouse. They shared the recording with the Kansas Reflector. In one part of the conversation, District Judge Scott Showalter, Court Clerk Rosella Reiser, and Court Attorney Charles Moser said they should take the couple into Colorado for a visit into the Yellowstone train station. The innuendo from the TV show Yellowstone refers to killing an enemy. Now, that was District Judge Scott Showalter, who, as far as I can tell from this expose, he might be a killer. And the court clerk Rosella Reiser, as far as I can tell from this expose, she's probably a killer. And Attorney Charles Moser, he's a dirty, dirty dog. And as far as I can tell from this report, he could be a killer, Charles Moser, along with Showalter and Reiser. Later in the same recording, Sheriff Marshall Unruh and Undersheriff Lance Finley talk about putting a bag over Mandy Hellstrom's head. Sheriff Marshall Unruh and Undersheriff Lance Finley talk about putting a bag over Mandy Hellstrom's head. Folks, I think Sheriff Marshall Unruh and Undersheriff Lance Finley are killers. I think they're murderers. I believe they are from this report. It's clearly, you're the court of public opinion, folks. Please leave a comment for Marshall Unruh and Lance Finley, because I think they're freaking killers. They're certainly degenerates, un-American. I can't stand those type of people being in our country. I just live in fear all day, every day, she said in an interview for the story. I think Lance Finley and Marshall Unruh should be looking over their shoulder. Not because of me. I don't wish any harm on them. But because of this report that shows that they're probably killers, I bet all good people are looking at them like, yeah, maybe they should be in fear for their lives. I'm just saying. I'm not alleging anything. The Hellstroms live in Sharon Springs in the far northwest corner of the state and are defending themselves from criminal drug charges. Mark Hellstrom describes himself in court filings as sovereign, but he says he is not associated with the sovereign citizen movement of extremist anti-government activism. Showalter recused himself from handling the couple's cases after they discovered the audio recordings and brought it to the court's attention. Oh, Showalter, Showalter, look at you, Judge. Judge Scumbag. Allegedly. He could possibly be a killer, Showalter. Reiser, Moser, Unruh, and Finley didn't respond to inquiries for the story. Oh, Showalter responded with a written statement. This is going to be great. Let's see what old Judge Showalter, scumbag, allegedly. I acknowledge I made inappropriate remarks. No, Judge, you made us aware that you're probably a killer, that were in poor taste, and I regret it, Showalter said. Yeah, poor taste. We think you're a murderer now, Judge. The remarks made in a private conversation, were not intended as a threat to anyone. What they were. They were, Showalter. Now you've left those people in fear for their lives. You're a dirty, dirty, dirty judge. You understand that? I recognize my error. I recused myself from the cases at hand. You need to go to jail. That's what you need to do. And self-reported my actions to the... Oh, lose your damn job, you dirty-ass judge. I apologize to the parties. Well, I think you're a terrorist, Judge. Your actions prove that you terrorized those people. Showalter, my court colleagues, and anyone else affected by my remarks. Well, we all are. Good America is affected by your remarks, Judge. We now look at all you robed pricks all the same, just like all these badged pricks and all these government thugs. You can talk about killing people. You freaking idiots. Drugs and consent. Sheriff's officers arrested the Hellstroms in June after they found marijuana and oxycodone in their house. Well, I wonder if there's any oxycodone in Showalter's house. Think about that, folks. Do you think there's any marijuana in any of these family members of any of these goofball knuckleheads we've mentioned in here? Okay. Sheriff's officers arrested, blah, blah, blah. Moses charged them with possession of the drugs, as well as not having a drug tax stamp and possession of drug paraphernalia. Oh, Moser also charged Mark Hellstrom with interference with law enforcement. All a bunch of crap. Mandy Hellstrom says she suffers from a medical condition that frequently causes her to vomit and feel nauseated. The couple said she intended to order the legal form of CBD. Oh, look at this, you guys. Look at this. The U.S. Postal Service notified law enforcement and they raided their house. Scumbags. Officers found the marijuana, oh my goodness, which is legal across the frickin' country, as well as oxycodone, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say I would be willing to bet that that's a very common pain medication. I've never taken it. I don't. But Mark Hellstrom said a neighbor inadvertently left the prescribed painkillers in the house years ago and that the Hellstroms had forgotten about them. The Hellstroms were terrorized by these local pricks, and I want you all to remember their names. The Hellstroms chose to represent themselves in court rather than rely on a court-appointed standby counsel who happens to be a prosecutor from the neighboring county. Oh, Lord. In court filings, Mark Hellstrom declared himself to be sovereign, and then he revoked his consent to be governed. And what does that do to a bunch of government thugs? Raid, 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 more raid. I do not consent to your laws, nor have I consented to this court's jurisdiction for the only reason I've appeared at all is because of the government's violent tendencies, which is placing my life in danger of being terminated. Everybody pay attention. The government, in this case, they're trying to kill these people, and they're going to laugh this off. You already saw what this prick judge said. Ooh, it was private conversation, is what that prick Showalter said. Oof. Oh, these pricks. All right, I'm a peaceful man just trying to live my life without interference from the government. God gave this right to a man, and his country was founded upon this principle. Everybody watching this Bad Apple Report, that's what this is about. We're all going out on a limb. You comment, you're on a list. You hit the like button, oh man, you're on a list. You subscribe to this channel, you're on a list. And I thank you for it. You're not a coward. In a September 25 filing, Mark Hellstrom demanded Moser drop the charges against him. Otherwise, he wrote, I will have no other choice in this matter but to file criminal charges for slavery. Oh, I love it. You know what? Drop the charges, you dirty government jerks. Death threats. Mark Hellstrom said he began recording audio phone messages. Send them to me, jerks. Try it. Inside, he was instructed to leave his phone on the counter in the clerk's office while he was in the courtroom. He said he forgot to turn the recording off. A couple days later, he said his wife was looking through the phone, found the recording of the private conversation among the judge, the clerk, and the prosecutor. The section goes as follows. Charles, we've decided we need a train station somewhere about 2 miles into Colorado. Moser, and it needs to be the Yellowstone train station. That's the judge. The judge, from this interaction, tells me that he's a killer. Riser, yes, exactly. We all know what that means. So, her, She's a demonic, you know what. At first, the Hellstrom didn't understand the reference to the TV show and the rural canyon, blah, 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 where the enemies were executed. Then we found out what it was all about. And then it was like, wow, they're talking about murdering me, is what they're saying. That's exactly what it means. You can't take that any other way, Hellstrom said. At another point in the recording, the sheriff, Unruh, and Undersheriff Finley are talking about a reference to a ball and chain at the desk, and Unruh said, we're going to have to get him because he's going to file a report. I'm telling you right now, folks, it's obvious that undersheriff and that sheriff are killers. I can tell from reading this, what they just said right there, that they're killers. Professional standard. The Hellstroms filed a complaint against Unruh and Finley. We should all do so. In the Kansas Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, CPOST identifies its mission as providing the citizens of Kansas with qualified, trained, ethical, competent, and professional peace officers. Bull crap. But in January 5th letter to Hellstrom, CPOST investigator Kevin Sexton said the agency doesn't investigate alleged crimes. Their complaint was dismissed. Folks, the tyranny is real. You cops that watch this, you bootlickers that watch this, we're watching you. The appropriate forum for any issues you may have, blah, 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 department. Please contact them for information. Oh, the Hellstroms say they don't feel safe, even if the recorded comments were intended to be a joke. They weren't a joke. Showalter and all those guys, they proved their intentions. And I want you to remember that, folks. These are very, 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 very dirty people. I was telling my wife, I said, well, if the cops came over here right now and they said that a warrant for your arrest, even though it may be real or not real, and they put handcuffs on you and they drove you 2 miles out and the cuffs blew your brains out, who's going to know? Nobody's going to know. And that's why, Hellstrom, you know what you got to do. And America, you know what you got to do. You guard yourself against these dirty criminal government thugs. That's what you do. Now, let's see if we can't drum up some photos of these absolute criminal government thugs. Let's do that. I don't think there's anything really special or exceptional about these terroristic government employees. I think they all talk about us when we're not around like this. They have our information, they peruse our information. But this is what they had to say. This is what's got them in such hot water. So a section goes as follows. Showalter, that's the judge, says, Charles, we've decided we need a train station somewhere about 2 miles into Colorado. Moser, now this is the lawyer, and it needs to be the Yellowstone train station. Riser, that's the dumb bitch. Yes, exactly. We all know what that means. At first, the Hellstroms didn't understand the reference to the TV show, The Rural Canyon, where enemies were executed. Then we found out what it was all about, and it was like, wow, they're talking about murdering me. And they're saying, that's exactly what it means. You can't take it any other way, Hellstrom said. At another point in the recording, Sheriff Unruh and Undersheriff Finley are talking, Mark Hellstrom, about Hellstrom. Finley references a ball and chain. We're going to have to get him because he's going to file a report. Now, but this is where, I read that earlier, but this I didn't read. Unruh to Finley, they turn their attention to Hellstrom. God, I wish they would just put a bag over her head. And Finley says, like, tie it off so she throws up. That's your sheriff and your undersheriff. A couple of killers. Finley adds, that's a medical. She needs to go to Greeley County so they can kill her. Oh, what do they know that we don't all know? Or now we all do know. There you have it, folks. There's a lot more to it. These are dirty people. Make sure their names are plastered out there. And they should live in infamy.